Questions. We have tons of them. What if some of those questions can be answered with a simple email? Now is that time, and welcome to Chat with Charlie. Host Stephanie Lynn is a certified spiritual life coach and psychic medium. She will work together with Spirit to answer both your submitted and live questions. Not only will Stephanie be providing you with insight, but also interviews with amazing guests. Now, your host of Chat with Charlie, Stephanie Lynn.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You are watching Chat with Charlie on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. Or maybe you're listening. Maybe you're not here at all and you're going to catch it and download it later. So that will be awesome. I'm really excited about today's guest. Over the month and the next couple months, I'd like to get some more fellow hosts from the station on here. And if you're familiar to the station, then you're very familiar with Brandon. And Brandon Wainwright is a retired law enforcement officer, but he's also an author and a spiritual energy healer. And I thought, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Shell. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Dan. I'm so glad you're here. I'm here. I love it. And so I just thought, when we look at the metaphysical world, good morning, Keith. Thank you so much for coming in. A lot of times can be very woman dominated. There's a lot of women that are in the metaphysical, and we don't always think of somebody, like a police officer or somebody that worked in that world, getting in touch with their more spiritual side, being open and being an energy healer and working with these things. And it's very interesting to me, having come from a background like that, having my husband come from a background like that, and us being very open to start meeting other people within that field who are also very open and who also, have learned through their own experiences. For Brandon, it was his family's loss of his beloved dog, Tyson, to healing some of that trauma. And then in turn, good morning, Phoenix, helping others heal their trauma. It's painful as we're going through our own trauma healing, but it's such a beautiful gift to be able to give to others. So please help me welcome Brandon to the show this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephanie. How are you?
I am well. I'm so excited to have you here. I love your story.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's, and I kind of said to the viewers, I think when people think of, especially somebody, in law enforcement or people that are public servants, we have this persona of having to be that strong person for other people in their moments of tragedy, but we still have to deal with our own. And sometimes, dealing with other people's tragedy coupled with dealing with our tragedy, we don't turn those into healthy habits. But you've really worked a way into turning all of that into healthy habits for other people. And I just think that's amazing.
Been trying. Yeah.
Yes. It's a process, right? It's a never ending process.
Yeah. Just sharing the story.
Right.
The experiences that I had with Tyson and my family and everything that's happened since then is, the idea is to, make people more aware of their divine nature,
Right.
and that there's more and that we're all
Absolutely.
connected. We're all connected to oneness, and just knowing that provides a lot of peace and kind of changes your perspective on life and death.
Absolutely.
and
absolutely.
what it's all about. And so, yeah, it's definitely, that's the idea. I think, as a police officer, sure, every day you go out there with the intention of trying to make a difference.
Right.
But I'm sure you can relate to this. Most of the time you don't really feel like you're making much of a difference.
You don't. Right.
You feel like you're taking a beating a lot of the time, and people don't want you there. And occasionally
a very jaded sense of society, I think,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And you go into that survival mode where you look at people as even if you don't truly see them as an adversary, you see them as a threat.
Right.
You have to see them as at least as a potential threat.
Right.
And then when you have everything that's been going on
Yeah.
with regards to law enforcement and, just civil unrest and
Yes. Yeah.
not so civil unrest and everything that's happened in our country. For me, it was really demoralizing.
Yes.
So I'm thankful at this point to not that, and I want to qualify that there were many times where I felt gratified with something that happened at
Correct.
work.
Correct.
But it was also, it took a pretty heavy toll. So,
It does.
so being in doing this work, is, there's every time you do a healing on somebody and
Right.
they come out of it better off than they were before,
Right.
and sometimes a whole lot better off than they were
Right.
before. And every time somebody tells me they read the book and it made a difference to them, opened their eyes to things. Yeah. I mean, that satisfaction that comes with that is on a level that for me, it really surpasses anything I experienced as an officer. I shouldn't say anything, but most anything.
Right. No, and I understand that. And I think it is interesting for anybody that's worked in that criminal justice field in almost any aspect, because I know even for myself, having gone through the experiences that I went through and then moving into a civilian job, and it's kind of funny because it's that same thing of, people are freaking out about these things, and I'm like, oh, this is easy, no one's trying to stab me, let me help you. And so it's those different levels of stressors,
Mm-hmm.
that you deal with. But then I completely agree to move to where people genuinely or generally aren't that thrilled to see people when, especially for me, I worked within the jail system. So who wants to see me? Nobody. And so it's now, like you said, to be able and to go to people and see, first of all, see past them as that human, see those things that are afflicting them, that are kind of aiding in some of those not great choices, but then to be able to be a part of healing that.
Yeah. Yeah,
How
exactly.
how for the viewers who may not be familiar with your show, which actually is on live later tonight, guys, so tune back in and check out Brandon. Tell us, or tell them a little bit about how you came into, you know going through what you did with Tyson, but then moving that into self-healing and energy work for others.
Well, it was all kind of mixed together. So when the process of coping with Tyson's death is what opened me up to the need to know more about our eternal nature. Like
Right.
I didn't have a defined um, belief system on the afterlife,
Right.
and I was raised agnostic, so I didn't.
Okay.
I knew I believed in more, and I
Right.
knew, but at that point in my journey, I didn't think that I could ever really know that there's
Right.
more.
Right.
I instinctively knew, and I just thought, no one really knows, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. But when he died, we had such a strong connection
Right.
he meant so much to me that I just had to know. I was
Mhm.
45 years old, had coped with plenty of loss in my life, but
Right.
this was something that was on a whole nother level for me. Little
Yeah.
8-pound Chihuahua Dachshund mix,
Right.
And so once I started seeking out those answers, miraculously, I look back on it because, I never got those answers before. I guess wasn't looking in the right place,
Right.
but through animal communicators and then mediums, I had these profound experiences
Yeah.
that were undeniable. I mean, there was no way to explain them away
Right.
with any being genuine about it.
Right. Right.
I would have been lying to myself if I tried to say that it was not true. And so at that point, it was okay. This is real. And then it's like, well, if this is the case, then I want to go further. I want to expand on this and learn more
Right.
about it. I want to develop a stronger relationship with it,
Mhm.
and to seek out my own intuitive connections to spirit.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so that's when I started doing Reiki,
Okay.
and that got me into the healing.
And I
And
love that you bring up Reiki, and I don't mean to cut you off, but it seems like everybody as they start into this journey. And like for me too, like Reiki is
Yeah.
the gateway metaphysical drug. Like once
Yeah.
you hit Reiki, guys, you're gonna keep going. I'm
And
just saying.
it's like a joint, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I didn't inhale. I just now I'm at Reiki 3.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For one thing, it's a lot more mainstream, so
Yes.
it's accessible. It's very simple in the way it's taught and the way it's implemented, and it doesn't require you to have any kind of abilities that you're aware of, just a
Right.
desire to help people, and that's it. You just go with that
Absolutely.
intention, and so it's not intimidating. It's inviting. And even there, though, for a lot of people, that's way out of whack. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
way beyond what they would be interested in. But yeah, so once I started doing Reiki, I found that I was pretty good at it, and I was getting
Right.
some pretty strong results.
I love
And
it.
and then I eventually became a Reiki master.
Yes.
I kind of giggle at that
Right.
that title.
Yeah.
I got to level 3 Reiki, um, and just kept practicing. And this is while I was still working as an officer, and I'd come home from work and I'd do my meditation, and
Right.
then I would pick somebody to work on, or two people to
Yeah.
work on, and that was my daily routine. So I was growing in it, seeing the results, and wanting to expand more and more,
Right.
and then I eventually started taking more classes and getting in even deeper into more complex techniques, and
Yeah, because
learning more.
you do color and sound, and I'll let you say it.
Kundalini.
Yes, light
Visualization.
energization healing, which I have never heard of. And so I want to put these out there too for our viewers that are watching that might have questions about some of these techniques or options, to please pop them in. You're a spirit assisted energy healer and a reflective energy healer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
reflective etheric. Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and they're all. I mean, ultimately, it's you're channeling spiritual energy, healing
Correct.
energy, and
Yeah.
I Reiki, they say, is a specific energy.
Hmm.
you know the way I experience Reiki or these other energies, they feel pretty much the same to me.
Right. Right.
um the way I experience it is through vibrations and
Okay.
electricity in my hands.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's the main way I feel it. But uh yeah, I mean, the thing the thing about Reiki is you don't have to know anything about it, other than
Mhm.
that you're wanting to help the person, and then
Correct.
you
Right.
start to see that it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then over time, as you practice, you start the more you do it, it becomes about what you're bringing to the table, in terms
Yeah.
of your intention, in terms of the love that you feel for the person that you're trying to heal. I'm not
Absolutely.
talking about romantic love, but just love
Right.
the
Right.
fellow
Love for your
soul.
fellow man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it expands you. And the more you do it, and the more you learn,
Right.
the more you grow in it, and
Right.
and the more power you start to feel. And
Absolutely. And I think
so
that's because you're open to that connection too. You as you first experience, I think sometimes it's a little overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, but then as you get comfortable with the Reiki and you grow into it, you feel that. But I'm kind of curious because you said when you started with Reiki, you were still working,
yeah.
in that law enforcement world. Were they receptive or did you not really talk about it?
Oh no, I'm good or bad. I'm very,
Yeah,
vocal.
right.
I
Right.
don't
No, and
I
that's
I
and
don't
it's
keep much to myself.
well, and
Uh,
I love it. And what made me curious about it is I know even my husband or other law enforcement officers that we're friends with who go through these hard times or difficult experiences. And to me, I just think it's amazing to be able to say, hey, here's somebody that's gone through a lot of very similar experiences, that you could maybe relate to. And so that makes me curious of the receptivity to what you were doing.
well, and keep in mind, I was a policeman in the San Francisco Bay Area, which
Okay.
which is, it's a
Yeah.
little more, it's got a lot more cultural offerings than
Yes.
than a lot of places. So uh, people were actually, they weren't all receptive. A lot of them were just kind of, like I'd
Yeah.
say, hey, come here, let me touch you.
Right.
And sometimes I
Right.
would do it jokingly,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I knew it was making them uncomfortable,
Right.
and stuff.
Right.
But most of them at least listened, and a handful of them actually let me work on them and got
Yeah.
healings out of it.
That's
And
amazing.
but even, it's even the ones that did, they generally, most of them anyway, they took the healing, acknowledged it,
Yeah.
but they still just kind of stayed in, they
Yeah.
never came back again.
Right.
They even when they had ailments. So I would say I was it was I it was they were receptive and supportive, but definitely not like most of them. They weren't. It wasn't necessarily their cup of tea.
Sure. Sure. No,
Yeah.
and I completely understand that, but I do like that at least they were curious, and like I said, I just think it's so great to be able to say to people, even within my group of friends, like, hey, there's somebody who might understand you, because I think when you work in civil service, so many times you, first of all, it's hard to go get, whether it's mental health support or support for some of the things, because you feel weak. It puts people in this state of vulnerability. So to be able to give people these resources where it's somebody who's like, I've lived through these experiences, let me give you other options, I'm not going to judge you. I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah. I think, I agree with you. It's definitely, um, being a former cop gives you a certain level of credibility to people, and
Right.
approachability, like you're regular Joe,
Yeah. Right.
and when of course I am a regular Joe,
Right.
you're going
Right.
to get much more regular than me. And so it does make it a little bit easier to get people to, maybe, like, actually, my neighbor across the street, he's from New York.
Yeah.
He's got some salt to him. But I did a healing on him, and he said, "There's no way I'd be letting you do this if you hadn't been a former cop,
Right.
because I wouldn't
Right.
even give you the time of day."
Yeah. And
You know,
I
so
think back to what you had said about, you were in your 40s when this happened, but I've looked so much now at why spirit lets us go through these circumstances, why spirit gives us these journeys. And Michael Christopher says, I can relate. He's retired military. And we go through these things, but I think it's so important because it gives us those avenues of people we can reach. It gives you that credibility. It
mm,
puts you in that certain, I don't want to say a box, but it plugs you into where spirit needs you to be here, later to help people.
yeah, and it's fun. When I first started in it, my first Reiki teacher is actually a shaman,
Okay.
and she told me that you're being a cop at the time. I still was a cop,
Right.
is going to play a big role in you having an influence on people,
Right.
and specifically my book,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So I mean,
I,
it's kind of common sense, but it definitely has rung true that it's turned out
yeah.
that way.
No, I love that. So before, you moved into the energy healings, looking back, do you see, or did you have experiences where maybe you explained away where, I know you say, like, with Tyson's passing, it really opened you up to wanting that connection, but as you look back now, do you see where maybe spirit was trying to be like, hey, Brandon,
No,
pay
yeah,
attention?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a number of experiences that I had through over the years that were paranormal, and I had some claircognizance
Right.
things happen, that I experienced. I was influenced by them.
Yeah.
I noticed them, and then I just wrote them off.
Right.
And every now and then I would think about them, like, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
like one of the things that when I got my job on Married with Children, I remember Well, first off, I was still living in Northern California at the time. Just to share a quick story.
Yeah.
So I got a job. I got a degree in film, but I desperately didn't want to move to LA and work in
Right.
Hollywood. I knew I wasn't gonna like it, and I was a little intimidated by it, but mostly I just knew it's not gonna be for me. But I also knew I'd regret it if I didn't at least try.
Right.
So I ended up deciding I wasn't going to go. I got a job. My friend took me out to dinner the night that I got this job or that I was hired for this job. And she took me to Applebee's,
Okay.
and they just happened to sit me in a booth staring directly at the Hollywood paraphernalia on the wall.
Okay.
And one of the photos was Christina Applegate,
Oh, I love it.
which I wasn't really a big fan of hers,
Right.
although I loved Married with Children, but
Yeah.
but still, it was like, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, and my whole body started to get numb, and my adrenaline started pumping, and it was like, I'm not supposed to take this job. I have to go down there.
Yeah.
And just like that, I knew. And so all my reservations, everything went out the window. The next day I called and told them I couldn't take the job, made arrangements to move down there. And I ended up, well, as it turned out, I worked on Men in Black. A friend got me a job on the first Men in Black, and working as a special effects production assistant.
Wow.
So I was just a gopher, total gopher.
Right. Right. Well, but still, yeah, it's cool.
It was still cool to be on the set and stuff, like really kind of a dream come true. Not near as glamorous as you think. But at the wrap party, I was talking to one of my coworkers' sister.
Okay.
Who worked on Murphy Brown, and I started telling
I love that show.
Yeah, that kind of tells you the date. This was like
1996.
No. Yes. 1996. 1996. Yes.
Right.
And I had actually vocalized to people before I moved down there that if nothing else ever came of this venture, yes. I think it would make it worth it if I got to work on Married with Children. I just kind of not thinking that could ever possibly happen. Right. So I'm talking to this sister of my coworker who works on Murphy Brown, and she says, "Hey, so if you want to work on Married with Children," she says, they're gearing up right now for the upcoming season, like writing the scripts, and so that means they would be doing their hiring and whatnot. So why don't, if you're interested, you should send the resume to their offices. Well, it turns out their offices were directly upstairs from the Men in Black offices, like right above it. Right. So, and I didn't take it real serious. Right. But the next Wednesday, like this was on a Friday, the following Wednesday, I finally got off my butt and did it and walked up there, because I was there for something anyway. So I walked in, gave my resume. It just happened to be, I walk in, I say, "Yeah, I'm here to drop off a resume for production assistant." And he says, "God, your timing is unbelievable." He says, "We're interviewing today."
What? I love it.
For one position. He says, "Can you come back in a couple hours?" And I said, "Sure, I can arrange for that." So I come back a couple hours later. I'm the first interview, which is that's always the best slot.
Right. Absolutely.
And it went swimmingly. It was perfect. The next, that was on Wednesday. Friday morning, I had a follow-up interview, and in this interview, all the bigwigs, the executive producers and stuff were in there, and I was shitting egg rolls. Like before I went up in the building.
Oh, sure. How can you not be nervous?
Yeah, well, because I was like, if I don't get this job, I get this close to this job, I'm never gonna. Like at the time, I didn't feel like I could live with it.
Right.
Like being that it was something that I really had already wanted.
Right.
So now at the time I didn't even have a car. I had a motorcycle, and so I get on the elevator with this guy to go upstairs, and he's got a Fox Motocross t-shirt on.
Nice.
Which is for people that ride motorcycles. That's, especially motocross. That's a big thing. And so I say, "Hey, you ride bikes, huh?" And he goes, yeah. I don't have one right now, but I used to ride a lot of dirt bikes, whatever. And we just had a friendly conversation on the elevator. So he goes, yeah, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here for the interview for the production assistant job for Married with Children. He goes, he says, if you get it, you'll be my partner.
Awesome. Yeah.
I
Look
was
at
like,
how
cool.
all those
Yeah.
synchronicities.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. So,
Yep.
so I was like, oh, cool, great. Well, I hope I get it. I hope I'll see you. So I go in again, first interview. During the interview, the executive producer asked me, and the production assistant is a general term. It could be a lot of things,
Right.
but
right.
but this particular job was going to require a lot of driving, scripts around, picking stuff up, taking it around. It was a very demanding job. But she asked me in the interview, do you have a vehicle?
Yeah.
She didn't ask me a car.
Right.
She asked me, do you have a vehicle?
Right.
And I knew what she meant but I also thought, I'm sure I could do it on the bike. I ride my bike rain or shine. I've got saddlebags on. What can I not do on this that I could do in a car? So I said, yeah, I have a vehicle. Sure. and so the rest of the interview goes well.
Yeah.
And that night they call me and they tell me, you got the job. You're starting on Monday. And I was beside myself.
I bet. I can imagine.
It was the
Right.
ultimate euphoria, So I come back to work. I come show up on the Monday. First stop. Well, I was able to get a car. They nearly panicked when they found out I didn't have a car, but I was able to line one up. But the partner that I was to have, he says to me, he says they had it narrowed down to you and one other person, and they came to me and asked if I had met the two of them.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I'd met them both. And they asked him, well, who would you prefer to work with? And he says, I'll take Brandon. He rides motorcycles.
I love it. That's awesome.
It was like,
right.
Everything that clicked into place, it was clearly guided.
Divine intervention. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's no way, and ultimately I didn't like being in Hollywood but those experiences were awesome.
And it had to be fulfilled for you.
Yeah. Exactly. But I look back on that whole ball of wax, and I looked back on it before all my experiences with Tyson sometimes, and I would say, there's no way. Right. There's no way that there's not more. I just didn't. It didn't solidify enough to really take root. Yeah. But it was in there.
Yeah, and it is. But I love that when we're more enlightened, we can look back to those moments in our life and say, oh, I get it now. I see that. But we're going to take our first station break really quick. When we come back, please send in if you have questions about energy healing, what it means, what it is to be a certified color and sound healer or spirit assisted energy healer. Please hop on, send in your questions. I'm sure Brandon would like to answer them. And then we're going to talk more about what he does as a healer and his journey with Tyson in just a minute.
Download the new station calendar and never miss another show. To get it is simple and free. Just visit WLTK-DB.com to download or tap the subscribe button on our mobile app. Once the file is in your downloads folder, just double-click it, authorize it to your calendar, and boom, you have every show listed. Not only does it list the shows, but also the links to watch them live. We would like to thank Danny Loosemore for developing this for us and hope you enjoy it as much as we do. Get yours now at WLTKDB.com or just click subscribe on our mobile app. See you at the shows. Put the power of this station in the palm of your hand and download our mobile app. Visit the App Store, Google Play, and search for WLTK-DB Talk Radio and download the app for free. Listen to past shows, download our station calendar right to yours, and even shop. The WLTK-DB Talk Radio mobile app, now available on the App Store and Google Play. Download yours now.
everybody. Welcome back to Chat with Charlie. If you are just tuning in, we are sitting down with fellow WLTK-DB host Brandon Wainwright, and we're talking about all things that Brandon, through his journey with Tyson, his journey at becoming an energy healer. And so if you have questions about being an energy healer, Reiki, any of that stuff, what it all entails, please feel free to pop in your questions while we talk, because we'd really be happy to address those for you. So while we were at break, Brandon, I was thinking, and I was kind of looking over all this healing stuff you do, and I'm very curious. Well, I'm curious about a lot of them, but the spirit assisted energy healer. When you talk about that, do you have a specific spirit team that you call in to work with you with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's another name for spirit assisted healing technique, trance healing.
Okay.
That's another word for it.
Yeah.
It's you yourself, you can just direct energy without calling in anything to somebody, and they'll get a healing.
Right.
But the way this particular technique, I learned it up at Delphi University up in McKaysville, Georgia.
Okay.
And what the way they teach it is, I mean, amongst a bunch of other stuff that you learn in that class, they actually have you team up with an instructor where you do a guided meditation, and they guide you in to meet your doctors.
Wow.
And I'm not, we all have all the clairs, but I'm not
Right.
very clairvoyant.
Okay.
Generally for me, I'll get flashes of images here and there,
Okay.
but not like they're pouring in. I certainly couldn't sit down and do a reading for somebody. I'll get color when I'm meditating, stuff like that. But I actually, I met them.
Wow.
And I mean, their faces came to me. I could see, one of them is a surgeon. And the reason I could tell that is he was wearing scrubs.
Interesting.
And then one of them's a nurse. And the way I was able to tell that is she was wearing a classical nurse's.
The nurse. Yeah.
Yeah. The white nurse's outfit. One of them is a master teacher, Paracelsus,
Wow.
who was from Greek times. And the reason I know that is because I took in another class during a meditation, the same face came to me.
Wow.
In that context.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I know it's him.
Right.
And then the last one, I'm pretty sure if I had to bet the farm one way or the other, I would bet that she's a veterinarian.
Okay.
And
so do you do animal Reiki also, and animal communication?
Yeah. No, I don't do animal communication,
Okay.
but I do. I would love to eventually develop that ability, but right now I haven't developed that ability, but yes, I do animal healing.
Oh, wonderful.
And Reiki at this point is something that I generally will throw that energy in there with it, because it's all light energy.
Right. It is.
But I also call in Christ.
Yeah.
I call in Divine Mother. I call in the four main archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. Mm-hmm. I call in Elijah, and I kind of let them kind of figure out who's the best. Some people just seem to know exactly who's needed. I
call them all in too. I'm like, all right, guys, let's go. Like, you guys figure it out. I'll hold the space.
And that's what I do too. And I also call in. I've got a gatekeeper that guards my channel.
Yes.
And that's actually a friend of mine that I grew up with that passed away.
I love that.
But I also call in the person, the client's higher self, and my higher self.
Right.
And together, they figure out exactly what's up. And then when I do my the way I experience the healing is I scan with my hands, and I can tell where I feel spikes. I can feel where the energy is jumping, and where that energy is jumping, I'll work on it until the energy either clears, until it either stops flowing, or if it doesn't stop flowing, I'll bring in laser clearing with crystals. And then I also, I've learned each of these techniques separately, but at this point, the way when a client comes to me, I discuss with them kind of what do you think?
Right.
I find out what they need.
Yeah.
And then, with a mutual discussion and determine what technique would best serve them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just do it on my own. But at this point, I don't offer them. I used to list them all separately on my website and have different prices because some are more advanced than others,
Absolutely. And what do they go to the tysonsgifthealing.com to book with you?
Yes, tysonsgifthealing.com.
Okay.
But now I just charge a flat rate.
Right. Do you find like you kind of sandwich? Because I've been thinking about doing that too, because it's like I kind of sandwich things in, unless somebody's specifically like, I just want a psychic reading or I want a mediumship reading. I feel like I use all my tools. So it really, like you said, it just behooves you to just be like, here, you get me for this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the thing is, that's what I always did anyway.
Yeah.
If somebody signed up for a particular thing and then I got them on the phone and determined that something else would be the best thing for them,
Right.
I just charged them the same price and did what was best for them anyway.
Right.
So now I just cut through the mumbo jumbo and offer one flat rate
Yes.
for animals and
I
one
like
flat
that.
rate for humans,
Yeah.
and and so far, I think I feel much better about it.
Yeah.
Doing it that way.
No, I understand that, because that's something where I've kind of looked at it too, of, like you said, you once you are in tune with that energy and feeling what suits them, I'm not just going to be like you said, oh, well, you want Reiki, so that's what I'm going to do, but I don't really feel that's going to help you as much as this. So yeah.
I mean, the whole point is to help them.
Absolutely.
And some people think, well, you've invested all this extra money to learn this other technique, so you should charge more or whatever. And I think the best way to do it is just give them what they need.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have more tools to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you ready we have a couple questions to kind of jump on some questions here?
Sure.
All right. So Michelle asks if you're or either of us are able to tap into what her healing gifts might be, or how would you guide somebody to figuring out what their healing gifts might be?
Well, specifically healing gifts. One, that healing is, you as I believe, if you're a psychic or if you're a medium, that's a form of healing.
Yeah.
You're helping somebody to process things and in the case of a medium, you can really affect a lot of healing because you can reconnect somebody with their loved ones and make right what, there's things unsaid that can be said. But in terms of actual, moving energy around, I think, and the thing is, and to the point about those intuitive abilities, if you feel you have those abilities in a particular area, you hone them.
Yeah.
If you have claircognizance already, where you just know things,
absolutely,
then by all means you should try to develop that. So that's what I would say is be open to your gifts and listen to what they are and be honest with yourself. And even if you're not strong in a particular area, you'd be surprised at what can open up if you're put in a setting where you're asked to use it. Like Delphi.
Absolutely.
Delphi is like that. Like they have a class called in-depth channeling, and in this class they expose you to all kinds of different techniques and modalities throughout the week, and you test. It's not a test, it's more of a it's kind of giving you a little taste of everything, and it's inspiring and incredible when you find out just how much ability you actually have. Not that means that you're going to go work in it necessarily, but you might find that there's something there that you're really strong in, and maybe you hone that, or maybe there's more things. But as far as like what I do is the moving the energy and that sort of thing. Honestly, what we were talking about before.
Start with the Reiki.
I think Reiki is just a fantastic place to start, because it doesn't, like I was saying, it doesn't require you to fully buy in to the idea that you are going to be able to do it. That was the thing for me, was I believed that it worked.
Yep.
And I was really interested, and I wanted to check it out and experience it, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able to
Right.
do it. And so, but it gives you a set procedure to
Yes.
follow,
Yep.
the reality is that you don't actually really need a procedure.
I know some people
But,
freak out about that, but I agree. It's like once you learn and you learn what works for you and who your teams are.
yeah, I mean, you have your things that you do that work for you, kind of ritualistic, just like an
Right.
athlete has things that they do,
Absolutely.
but the nice thing about Reiki is it gives you specific things, as do some of the other techniques too.
Absolutely.
But they give you specific things to do, or just the fact that you got the attunement, and
Yes.
and and then you don't have to buy in, you don't have to believe, but you have the procedure, you have the steps, and you
Right.
go and you work with it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then you see, oh, actually, yes, I do have
Yeah.
this ability.
Yep. And I like Reiki too. Even, people, no matter where they're at in their metaphysical beliefs systems, even if they are somebody who maybe I'm still skeptical and people laugh at me like, how can you still be skeptical? It's just the way I am.
Me,
But,
me too, from time to time. Yeah.
yeah, and Reiki though, it really does give you, to me, it was like a puzzle piece. And so spirit took me little by little, like, okay, we know we can get her to get this. And then that made me a little bit more curious. And then that made me want to build. And so, I guess it depends on your belief and what you're looking to do. But I agree with Brandon that Reiki is, and Michael Christopher says, same here. The modalities are so intuitively guided. We just need to step out of the way.
Yeah, that's right. And but it takes time, because
Yes.
we're conditioned to be to see the world as in 3D,
Yep. Yep.
as we've been presented with it.
Absolutely.
And so it's nice to have a model that kind of works with that
Yeah.
perspective, and to kind of get you through and break the ice, and then you can go in deeper from there.
Absolutely. Michael asks also, are you able to heal or work on chronic conditions?
Yes. There's the all the modalities are capable. Reiki can.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I mean, there's I've had some very successful healings with various different modalities, but that of chronic conditions. But
Yeah.
but when I first started doing Reiki, and then this is just to give you an example, if you allow it to work, if you open your mind,
Yes.
and open your heart, and go with it, anything can happen. When I first learned the second level of Reiki, which is where you can send it distance through time and
Yep.
space, just before I got the attunement, I found out that my friend's daughter had been having chronic migraines. I was in California at the time; she was in Ohio. So,
Okay.
this is a large distance between us, but she's had these chronic migraines to the point where she had to drop out of school,
Wow.
and they were daily debilitating migraines.
Right.
So I'm like, well, can you ask her if it's okay if I start sending her Reiki once I get this attunement, because
Right.
I'd love to try and help her, and
Yeah.
it gave me an opportunity to test out the Reiki,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So right away I did. As soon as I got the attunement, I started doing it, and they stopped almost
Wow.
immediately.
Yeah.
Well, they did stop immediately. Actually, she ended up having one more migraine for about 10 minutes long, and then
Okay.
that was it. That's all she ever
Yeah.
had
I love it.
beyond that. So,
So,
but and I got to qualify that story too. When a couple years later, this is just to give you an idea of how skepticism,
right.
works in, certainly with the layperson, but and also with practitioners. A couple of years later, when I started my practice officially, I asked her for a testimonial, and
Right.
she wouldn't give it to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah.
If
Right.
she didn't mean anything hurtful
No.
by it, but
Right. Right.
it hurt me a little bit, because
Yeah.
because I had put a lot of effort in, and but also it's like, well, wait a minute, look what it did. You don't,
Right.
but
I know.
but
I
it's
know.
natural. That's a
It
natural
is.
human phenomenon. It's not that there was any malice
Absolutely.
behind it. It just she's going with what she's conditioned with.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
I agree.
religion also can be very
Yeah.
disruptive to people accepting.
In so many ways, in so many ways. So I do want to take one last question before you tell everybody where to find you and how to get a hold of you. Ward asks, how is my energy? I need healing. And I say everybody needs healing. Like there's none of us where it's like, you are healed, you're perfect, there's nothing to work on. We all got stuff to work on.
So, well, I'm not an intuitive, so
Right.
I can't just tell you how your
Right.
energy is,
Just pop in. Yeah.
but what I will say is that if you're open to healing
Yeah.
and want to heal and you seek it out, um, you can be healed. So
Absolutely.
if you're interested, Ward, hit me up. I'm sure we can work together.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to work with you, but I won't know until. I mean,
Right.
what I will say, I'll be able to tell how much energy flows, which tells me how much in need you are of energy.
Right.
If we actually do a session together.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because as I'm intuitively trying to connect with Ward, I literally saw a battery on yellow, like draining. So it's interesting that that's how you brought that up. But I also feel like Ward, with you, a lot of the healing that you have to do is deeper healing, healing some of the things in the past. I don't know if I don't want to say necessarily depression, but I do feel like there's some negative self-talk and you have to build that self-confidence in yourself. So those are all things that are part of our healing. Brandon, it has been amazing sitting down and talking to you. I really appreciate you coming on here. Tell everybody there's so many different ways to find you. Tonight, they can find you at 6:00 right back here on
6:00 Central. Yeah.
On the station. And you have a Facebook page where they can follow you?
Yeah, I have. There's the Tyson's Gift Healing Arts Facebook page. There's Tyson's Gift: How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide.
Yes.
That's my book.
Check it out, guys.
The easiest way to if you want to read about the book, which tells the whole story of how I opened up, and it's kind of a combination between Marley and Me and A Dog's Purpose, a real life version of A Dog's Purpose.
Right. I don't think I could get and that's what stopped me from reading your book, honestly, because like I can't watch Old Yeller. Like I'm the person who will look up a movie to see if the animal dies at the end or makes it, and then I won't watch it depending on.
But what you have to keep in mind is that this is a metaphysical story, and the dog dies.
That's true, but there's
I'll give you a hint. Ultimately he doesn't die. Right.
Okay. All
okay.
right.
So I agree with you. I still, when I read it, it's still hard for me to read that part of the book. But the reality is that it gets better after that. So give it a chance, and the lead up to it is very entertaining.
Oh, I can imagine.
Tyson was a wild man. He definitely is an entertaining little fur person to read about. But yeah, you can read about that book at tysonsgift.com. And if you want to check out the healing arts that I offer,
yes,
it's tysonsgifthealing.com. And actually there's a portion on that website that will take you to the book as well, if you want to check it out. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk about the possibility of doing a session, I'm happy to talk to you about it, or email with you or whatever. So don't be afraid to reach out. I'm here because I want to help people.
Absolutely.
But I'm also here to share that energy with people so that they can experience spirit for themselves, and hopefully open up to that, because it brings a lot of peace. So it's kind of it's a twofold mission.
Absolutely. And what do you have coming up on your show tonight for those who might want to tune back in?
I have Mike Jones, who is he's a healer and medium that I've worked with as a colleague. He's an Air Force veteran, and he's kind of a jack of all spiritual trades. He's a shaman, a healer, a medium. He's a really cool guy. He's young too. I'd say he's probably in his late 20s.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it.
But he's got a beautiful soul. He's very warm, and but he's one where he grew up in a very strict Southern Baptist environment, in the South, and then Air Force, and now he's doing this type of work. And so it'll be interesting to hear about his story and what he has to offer.
Yes. So make sure everybody, if you enjoyed this show, even if you didn't, Brandon is way more entertaining than me. So go on tonight at 6 and
That's
check
not
him
true.
out.
You're a great host.
Oh, thank you.
You're a great host.
Thank you. No, I appreciate so much having you come on, and I hope everybody will hop over and check everything out. We're going to let Brandon go. When we come back, I will tell you why you should tune in next week. Thank you, Brandon.
See you, Stephanie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
The Body Code is a revolutionary method of energetic healing developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson, which allows us to quickly and easily identify specific imbalances that seem to underline chronic ill health, acute and chronic pain, and discomfort, dysfunction, and stress. Ellie energetically connects with the subconscious of the client. Psychic medium Ellie Weisensell is a medical intuitive and energy healer, and a certified body code practitioner. She identifies and clears energetic imbalances within the body and energy field. Contact Ellie at the website below, and Ellie can work remotely from a distance, by phone, online, video chat. There's no need to travel to an office. Remember, the Body Code is safe for humans and animals. Contact Ellie today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Chat with Charlie on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. It's about 52 past the hour, and we're just getting ready to wrap things up. If you were just tuning in, please hop on Podbean, wherever you download your music, because you can find me there, and you can also download this show and other shows. And even if you are here right now listening to this show, maybe you missed some other shows, you can find them there. You can also find shows on my Facebook page or on WLTKDB.com. Make sure you hop on to WLTKDB.com, speaking of them, and check out all the other fantastic shows that the station has to offer. We're constantly adding new shows and hosts and trying to just be a platform of healing and information and inspiration. And as you've seen, Brandon, that's why we're here. We're all here to serve you. We're all here to help heal, to help educate. So please check that out, because you're the reason why we're here. So why should you watch next week? Let me tell you why you should watch next week. Next week, Michael Christopher, evidential medium, who you guys have kind of seen him pop in throughout the show with comments, is going to be joining us here live. I cannot see us getting through that whole show without some hilarity. Michael is hysterical. You guys are going to love him, love listening to him talk and the information that he is going to give. We are going to, talk kind of in the beginning, but then towards the end of the show, we are going to open it up and answer some questions for you, psychic, or maybe we'll throw in a couple mediumship questions. That would be interesting. So check us out next week on the 16th. Then on the 23rd, I am going to be joined by another fellow host, Dee Dee Moonflyer. She is fantastic. I can't wait to sit down and talk to her. She has such amazing energy, just out of this world. And then on the 30th, you just saw the advertisement. Ellie Weisensell is back joining us. And I'm really not sure what Ellie and I are going to talk about yet, but I know it will be fantastic because she is fantastic. So the 18th, come see me in Ashland, Wisconsin. If you are close, there will be a lot of great vendors there. There will be fellow WLTK-DB host. Soul and Synergy is putting this on. They will be there. Ellie is going to be there. There's going to be tons of vendors, speakers. I'm speaking. I believe Ellie may be speaking. I believe Miss Dayette is doing the gallery. So lots of information, lots of things going on. Hop out and see all of us. That's the 18th in Ashland, Wisconsin. I believe that's going to be held at the Splashland Water Park. So come see us and then go swimming, because Lord knows the lakes are still frozen. So I am looking forward to our chat too, Michael. Thank you so much. Yay. Soul and Synergy says, yay. It's always a great time with them. It's really like getting together with family, and, like the family you want to hang out with, not the family you don't want to hang out with. So, Phoenix says she will also be vending at Ashland. So awesome. I'm so excited. And it's nice to get to meet people, see people, connect. Okay. So I asked Spirit about pulling cards, and actually they said we're only talking about one card today. It will be a great day, Ellie. I'm really excited. So the card today, this one kind of stings a little bit. And it is, again, I'm using the Sacred Forest, but this is the Truth card, the Raven Spirit. Okay. And Spirit's coming at me at all angles with this card. So first, when they bring this in and they're talking about truth, okay? First, they're talking about knowing your truth, right? And this was something, I mean, gosh, if you guys have been following me at all over the last, maybe like year, 2 years almost now that I've kind of been out there, but not very long since you've actually seen my face. It was hard to step into my truth. It was hard to be who I am and allow people to see me. And so this is Spirit coming in and telling you to own your truth. They made you the way they made you for a reason, right? We can't all be the same. We all have to step into whatever the gifts are that we carried with us into this world. That doesn't mean that you're a psychic medium. It might be that you're a great listener. It might be, I love it. Michael says, perfect card. I'm still fighting myself and my abilities. And I get that. I feel that, Michael, and you know that on so many levels. So Spirit's really calling you guys to task. It is okay to own your truth. It is okay to be your truth. It is okay to be you. I love you. Spirit loves you the way you are. That's why they made you the way you are. None of us are perfect. None of us have to be exactly like each other. Could you imagine if everybody was alike? I mean, we couldn't live with 1,000 Stephanie Lynn's. That would be overwhelming. That's why we all have our own roles to play. Next, they're coming in with truth, and it's avoidance of the truth. And so this goes out to somebody who is very aware of the truths going on around them, but are denying the acceptance of those truths, right? They are denying that these things are going on. They are denying and just because it's painful, it's hard to make decisions. It's hard when other people's truths affect our life and put us in positions that we don't want to. You have to accept that truth. You're not going to move past it if you don't accept that truth. Erica says, I'm still fighting the idea of being chased with pitchforks, but definitely getting more open. So I get that. And when you're seeing this last card, Spirit also calls the last message of the truth card not speaking the truth. And this is not your truth. This is not speaking the truth. And so I feel like there are people who need to see this card who maybe don't look at what they're putting out there as being dishonest. Maybe they don't see it as them lying or being manipulative with their words, but it's not speaking the whole truth. It's not speaking the truth that takes away other people's truths. It's not speaking the truth that condemns other people by the things that you create. Whether you're neglecting to say something and leaving it up to other people's perceptions, you have to speak the truth. You have to be a person of conviction. That's what I hear, of conviction. Not being the gossiper sitting at the water cooler, being that person that is going to speak the truth. It is an impact theme, Ellie, and I have goosebumps right now because Spirit really wrapped that card into so much. And, there is, and I keep hearing, there's so much that comes into not speaking the truth. It could be ego driven. It could be driven for so many reasons. But it only makes you, if you're the one not speaking the truth, if you're the one not being honest, eventually that's going to come back around. And you don't have a long time to fix that. So With that, everybody, be truthful, be honest, accept that truth. I accept that truth, when I step on the scale and I'm not thrilled, but it's the truth. Less cookies for me. Own it, people. No more excuses. I love you all. I will see you next week on the 16th right here on WLTK-DB with Michael Christopher. Bye, everybody.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.